In some of my books, I picked up these bloodlines that became known as royalty. And you can chart them through history, and you can find child abuse, pedophilia, and you can find human sacrifice. What is royalty? Why is it someone's genetics that decides they will be head of state in a country, or absolutely 100% dictatorially control countries for a long, long time? It's because they claim that their bloodline is special. Why do they call the aristocracy blue bloods as opposed to what everyone else is like? Why do these families incessantly interbreed all the way through the ages? Not out of love and attraction overwhelmingly, but because of bloodline. Why, when these same bloodlines, apart from a few left now that we still call royal, like the Windsors or the House of Saxe-Coburg-Gotha, as it really is, German House of Royal House, why, when a lot of these bloodlines moved into the dark suit professions and took over banking and business and politics and all these other institutions, media ownership, why do they also incessantly interbreed with each other as well? Why do we have Eastern establishment families of the United States who interbreed with each other? Because there is a particular genetics, I call it hybrid genetics, and it's what was referred to at one point as the bloodlines of the gods. And because there is these hybrid bloodlines, part human, part non-human, which goes back, I'd say, to the Bible, but the same story is everywhere in ancient cultures. In the biblical version of it is the sons of God who interbred with the daughters of men and all that stuff. It's this hybrid genetics, actually hybrid information fields, if you get deeper into reality, that is the core of why they think they're special and above the rest of the population. This is why they won't, in any way where the royal title or the royal rulership will be inherited, do they interbreed with what are called commoners. I mean, you see Kate Middleton. She was described when she married William as a commoner. Then a few Burke's Peerage type people who look into these aristocratic backgrounds and bloodlines, they did a bit of research into Kate Middleton and found she came from a blue blood background. So, which didn't surprise me, to say the least. So there is a history, not just of the bloodline, which for a long time was called royal in terms of Windsor still is, but also of this pedophilia, Satanism, because, you know, when they talk about the ancients sacrificing children to the gods, or what's the term, sacrificing young virgins, children, to the gods, these gods, this non-human force that's actually behind human events. I don't care if people say, David Icke, mate, I don't care. I don't give a shit, mate. Just look at the evidence. These gods are these non-human entities that operate outside of human sight, which of course is very narrow human sight. We can see hardly anything. And it's that gods interbreeding connection which created royalty and created aristocracy. That's why they see themselves as better than us.
We had a guest on recently, David Macmillan. He's coming tonight, actually. And at the end of the conversation, he believes that the infinite improbability of that mitochondria existing on Earth just out of itself, there wasn't enough time looking at the probabilities. It must have come from somewhere else. Is that something that you've looked at?
Oh, I've been writing about it for the best part of 30 years. It's very clear that humanity is being manipulated generation after generation into what I might call a perceptual bubble. Perceptions are everything. What you perceive is how you behave. It's everything. It's your perceptions, i.e. what I would say programming, because if you look at a human life, you come out of the womb and you hit parental programming, which is not through malevolence, but the parents have been through what you're about to go through and bought it, so they pass that programming on to you. You hit the education system at an ever earlier age, and now throughout your formative years, you've got representatives of the state who are giving you the state's version of everything all the way through your formative years. The media is pounding the same version of reality at you. Science is telling you that, apart from quantum physics. Medicine's telling you that, etc., etc. And then you've got peer pressure around you that's been through the same programming of perception and accepted it and believed it, and they give you a hard time if you have a different perception to what they've been programmed to have. And basically, we've got a situation where from cradle to grave, a human life is a perceptual download to hold us in a narrow band of perception, which I call the postage stamp consensus. And this consensus waves away any idea that reality, as mainstream science tells us, ludicrous, is not true. That there can be any manipulation of human society by a non-human force we can't see, because most people think, well, why can't we see them? You know, I can see everything there is to see in the space I'm looking at. When in truth, what we call visual reality is a tiny, tiny, ludicrously narrow band called visible light, and all the perceptual download holds us in this narrow band of sense of the possible, and it puts people in bubbles. People are breaking out of them now more and more, but most people are still in this bubble, and this bubble has a reflex action response to anything that is not in the perceptual range of the bubble. So when people like me come out and say, blah, 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 we're being manipulated by a non-human force, the bubble reaction is, you're mad. But the bubble also has a protection mechanism which plays out in one sense, that they won't then go and look at the books and say, well, okay, look, how's this guy justifying this? No. One line, and this is why you get in the media, David Icke says we're ruled by 6-foot lizards. Or is it 7-foot lizards or 8-foot lizards or whatever? And that's where it stops. Oh, he says we're ruled by lizards. He's got to be mad. This is how the perception thing works. And what I'm saying is, when you study it deeply, these perceptual bubbles constantly are underpinned by what we call the education system, by the media and all that stuff. And journalists, where do they judge report the world from and observe the world from? The bubble, because they've been through the same perceptual download as everyone else. It's the blind leading the bloody blind, really. And so we have this situation where you've got this perceptual these perceptual tram lines, and it's been done systematically. They don't want us to know the true nature of reality. They don't want us to know the true nature of history, because if we did, then the pennies would start to drop on why human society is as it is, and how mysteries can be explained with perfect, simple logic once you realize what reality is as opposed to what we're told it is. So I'll give you a quick example of that. When I say that these bloodlines we're talking about, the most inner core of them have the ability to move between human and non-human form, immediately bubble perception says, that's crazy, impossible, he's mad. So why is that then? Well, you can't have a solid body change into another form and back again. No, you can't. But the body is not solid. It's a hologram, illusory solidity. And we're told that the body is made of atoms. We're told this wall is made of atoms. Atoms have no solidity. They're basically nothing's empty space, but what appears to be just empty space. There's no solidity. And atoms that aren't solid can't make a solid wall, and they can't make a solid body. This reality in its base form is waveform information. Think Wi-Fi. Just think Wi-Fi. And we decode that information into the world holographic, not physical, that we think is the world we're experiencing. And you can produce a very simple analogy for that.